All right, good evening. Welcome to the Falls Township Board of Supervisors meeting for Monday, December 19th. We'll begin with a salute to the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Galloway, can you call the roll, please?
Jeff Brodsky.
Here.
John Coleman.
Here.
Aaron Mullen.
Here.
Jeff Dent.
Here.
And I am, of course, here.
All right. First item on the agenda is public comment. First name is Tom Vreeland from the Fairless Hills Rescue Squad.
Hello, folks. It's Todd Vreeland. Sorry, I misspelled.
Todd, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No, you spelled it right. I said it wrong.
That's okay. I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm the new deputy chief over at Levittown. I've been there since about May of this year, and just wanted to offer our services. You know, we've been providing the 911 service to your township for years now, and I'm just looking to provide a bridge. You need information about what we do. Help with stuff that we do in the community. We really try to reach out and try to help the community, and of course we need your help and support also, so we just want to be here and let you know if you need any have any questions you need asked, just let us know. I've been coming to these meetings the last couple times. I'm like, I probably should get up and introduce myself and let you all know who I am instead of the guy that sits in the black shirt in the back of the audience. And the same thing goes for the public too. If you have any questions for us about the rescue squad, just let us know too. We're here to facilitate helping folks out too. You're the people that we serve.
Do you have a business card?
I do.
You know, you can see Teresa there with the computer.
Yep.
She does our PR stuff, and she can connect with you, and we'll
Okay, very well.
get it out there for you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony Batiste is on the list.
Good evening. This is a little jumbled. I just dropped off my grandchild and ran in late. Anyhow, the EIT, it is needed for the budget maintenance once waste management closes. However, it needs to have its own separate account. It should not be commingled into the general funds.
It's not.
Okay.
It won't be, but go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to point out that it should have its own separate funds. The other issue is the heavy metal or the heavy industry that's being proposed for the riverfront. Unfortunately, I didn't see any maps. I couldn't pull it up online. And I know a lot of times we don't see it in here.
That's being tabled tonight.
Okay.
It's being removed from the agenda as well.
For that.
Thank you, Tony. Any other public comment needed? All right, item number 1, that was public comment. Item number 2 is the EIT. So we have a presentation, right? We do.
Go in the back.
Hello, my name is Peter Angelides. I'm the president of eConsult Solutions. I'm here to present the results of a study we did on the earned income tax. Unfortunately, the presentation is sort of lost in cyberspace, so the board all have copies of it in front of you. I gave one to the solicitor, one to the secretary. My only other copy I'm reading off of right here. So I apologize that it's not available on the screen. At some point, hopefully get that resolved. It's a fairly short presentation, so really I'm just going to go through what the earned income tax is. I'll explain what we did to calculate how much it is likely to gather, explain the difference between taxes your residents are already paying and new taxes to them, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so there are really two phases to the study. The first is asking the question, how much do your residents already pay in earned income tax? And the second is, what could you potentially gain from earned income tax if you were to impose it? What is the earned income tax? It is actually pretty much what it says, is a tax on earned income, and earned income is your job, your wages, salary, that kind of thing. Unearned income, interest, dividends, capital gains, alimony, Social Security, that is not subject to the earned income tax. Okay, neither are 401k withdrawals. So really it's your salary, your paycheck, that is what is impacted by the earned income tax. There are two types of EIT. There's a resident EIT and a non-resident EIT. So the resident EIT is, and you can impose both of them, it's a tax on your residents, regardless of where they work. Everybody who lives in the township would pay it. And then you have a non-resident EIT, which is essentially a tax on people who work in your township but don't live in your township. Okay, so that's the, those are the two types. You can do both of them if you want. And the rule on resident versus non-resident is that the resident part takes precedence over the non-resident part. So if you live in a place that has an EIT and you work in a place that has its own EIT but it's different, you pay to your home township before you pay to the other place. So there's no double dipping. If they both have the same rate, then the money goes to your hometown, not where you work. Okay, and that's really, really important because that impacts people who are in Falls right now who live here and work someplace where they're paying EIT. They're paying the EIT right now, but not to you. But if you had the EIT tax, the money would come back home. Okay, that's the important part about it. And of course, if the other place has a higher EIT, then that person winds up paying no more than they're paying right now. It just, some of it comes back home. That's true everywhere except for one place, Philadelphia. So the wage tax takes precedence over everything. So if you live in Falls and you work in Philadelphia and you currently pay the wage tax, you don't pay the EIT. Okay, so if you work in Philadelphia, your taxes don't change at all, according to this. All right, so that's the general overview of the earned income tax.
So just to be clear, this is not in addition to anything you're already paying if you're in Philadelphia?
Correct. If you work in Philadelphia, if you're a resident here and you work in Philadelphia, you're not paying any more. That's correct. That's absolutely correct.
What happens if you live in New Jersey, or you work in New Jersey?
Then you have to pay it. Yeah, and if you're a resident here and you work in New Jersey, then you pay it.
Okay.
I have a map, which I wish I had on screen, but it basically shows you who locally has an earned income tax. The short answer is basically everybody else but you. That's not literally true, but most of your neighboring communities have the earned income tax, which means that anybody who lives here and works in one of those places is already paying the earned income tax. And so townships over time have adopted the EIT basically to recapture taxes that their residents are already paying. But instead of having them paid somewhere else, they're coming home. So the first study we did was, okay, how much are they actually paying right now? And there are several different ways of doing it. The one that we like the most accurate, the residents are paying about $3.5 million to Pennsylvania townships that are not Philadelphia. And they're paying another $4 million to Philadelphia, so 7.5, something like that. But the answer that's important is about $3.5 million currently is being paid by Falls residents to somebody else, to other township that is not Falls, that you would then be able to recapture if you had the earned income tax. So that's the answer to the first part of it. The second part is, okay, well, if you have earned income tax, how much could you raise? So part of it is that $3.5 million I just talked about. But what else is there? Well, you have people who live and work in Falls. They currently aren't paying it. You also have people who work in Falls but don't live in Falls. They're not paying anything to you. If they work in Philadelphia, if they live in Philadelphia, or if they live in another place that has a EIT, then they're not going to pay you anything because they pay their home. But if they're working in a place that doesn't have an EIT, and sorry, they live in a place that doesn't have an EIT and they work in Falls, then they will pay. And so we looked at that question several different ways. I'm not going to bore you with the details. Happy to go into them if you want, but basically several different, and they came out very, very close together. So if you were to have the EIT somewhere between $5.7, $5.9 million of taxes on your residents, so the resident part of the EIT, and then the non-resident collections would be about $1.4 million. It's a lot lower, and that's because most of the townships around you already have an EIT. So the total of that is about $7.2 million, roughly. That's how much the EIT tax would raise. Okay, that's that one answer. The next question is, how much of that is new taxes on Falls Township residents? Okay, and that's on slide number 6, the lower right-hand part. About a third, a little bit less than a third. So 32% of that, or $2.3 million, that would be new tax revenue on Falls residents that they're currently not paying the EIT. But the balance of that, $4.9 million, almost $5 million, is either EIT that's already being paid by your residents but it's going somewhere else, or EIT from non-residents who, well, they're not here. So that's the bottom line, is that you impose the EIT, maybe a little bit less than a third of it is actually new money coming from Falls residents. The rest of it you're getting either from people who are already paying it or people who don't live here. Okay, and that's for the township as it exists right now. We also did a little study on proposed development and estimated number of construction jobs and estimated earnings and potential EIT, and that EIT revenue on a fairly substantial development could be basically $750,000 a year if it gets built out the way it is anticipated. And that's the very, very high level overview. So I'm happy to take any questions.
All right. Go backwards. Do you have any questions, Mr. Palmer, tonight?
Give me a minute, I'll come back to it.
Ms. Mullen?
Yes. Thank you for that, and for the report.
Welcome.
Thank you for that, and for the report.
You're welcome.
Okay, so you said it, but I just want to confirm that of the $7.2 million in new revenue, only 32% would be new taxes to the tune of $2.3 million.
New taxes to Falls residents.
Yes.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay. How do the self-employed go about paying the tax?
They would have to pay to the township, and you have a tax form.
At the end of the year?
at the end of the year throughout, or they could sign up with Berkheimer or your local tax collector to do it, continuously.
And that's the same thing that out-of-state,
Yes,
people who work out of state would do?
correct. People who work out of state, yes, they'd have to file.
Okay. That's all I have, thank you.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes, to be clear, this has no impact on those living in retirement, on retirement income.
Correct.
No negative impact at all.
That's correct.
So it's something that would really benefit our seniors, I suppose.
That's correct.
You got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Boraski?
Might also be a question for Mr. Rakoff too. The 7.2 million number for potential EIT for 2023, but how come in our budget we're at 5.250?
I don't know if this is on.
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to work under the assumption that the school district would take their half. Okay, so I didn't want to budget the full amount. We have to budget our revenues conservatively. So we would never budget the full amount of the tax. So we would assume that the school district would take their half starting in July of 2023. So I
So
reduced the
but
number.
while we're on that, I mean, just maybe you could put some input, but that would be, the school district would have a lot of work to do between now and June, right? Because we have Lower Makefield, Yardley Borough, and Tullytown Borough that adjoining municipalities.
That's correct. And just to maybe set a little more context, the analysis here assumes 1% EIT that the township collects completely and assumes that the school district does not impose one. So the adjustment to the budget makes sense to me.
That's a Clark question.
Mr. Clark, so, if, you know, I guess I'm curious of whenever it relates to the school district, like, what do you think the time frame would be? This
Well-
seems like a lot of work for three other municipalities next to us to enact an EIT.
Well, if the school district enacts it, they have to enact it district-wide. They just can't enact it for Falls Township residents. And as you indicated, Pennsbury is a regional school district, so they would have to do it for everyone in the district. Whether or not the other municipalities would choose to then enact one would be up to those other municipalities, but often what happens is when the first municipality does it, everybody else just falls in line. But I agree with you, is the school district has probably already begun all of their budgeting process for the 23-24 school year. So they would have a lot to do in the next 4 or 5 months if they wanted to enact an EIT.
And I guess I'm sorry, because I misunderstood. I didn't know that the school district itself as an entity could enact an EIT.
They can take our half, but then they have to impose
Okay.
that percentage on
Okay.
everyone in the district. It has
Okay.
to be uniform.
All right. Okay, we can circle back when we get to the budget again as well, yeah. I'm okay for right now.
Mr. Palmer?
Yeah, I'm a little curious, why do we go to 1% if we're starting this program? I know Bristol did it maybe 20-some years ago, and they started at a half, and I think they're still at a half. So why take it to 1% from the start?
Just for simple, I mean, you could do 0.5%, it would be about half that amount. But for modeling simplicity, that's the maximum you could impose, so that's what we modeled.
That's all I have for right now.
So someone like me, I don't work in I work in Pennsylvania, but my employer is in New Jersey. How do I go about, I have to file on my own at the end of the year?
Yes.
When I file my federal taxes and stuff?
Yes,
Okay. And then pay my earned income tax
right,
there?
you're a federal, state, and this would be your local tax.
Okay. Any other questions from board members before we take public comment?
I'm okay right now.
All right, public comment? Mr. Henderson back there?
Hello, Colin Henderson, Falls Township. So I was here last month, and I'm still opposed to the EIT. Waste management's got a lifespan here of what, about 10, 12 years roughly?
There's a dollar amount of about $130 million.
Okay.
Depending when it fills up, could be 5 years. But the dollar amount doesn't change no matter how long the length is.
Okay, I just know when they came in front of the planning commission, when they purchased land with North Point, they said they had about 5 years left, plus that was a 7-year extension on top.
Yeah, it's a
I mean,
dollar, the dollar amount, the timeline depends on, construction and everything else. So if things slow down, then yeah, it could be 15 years. But the dollar amount doesn't change.
Okay.
The amount of trash that it can hold and the dollars that it's going to take is the same.
Okay. But what I'm saying is we have 10 years to look at this issue, to curb our revenue, or to curb our spending, to try to increase revenue in other ways. I just think the EIT is a last resort, not a first option. And I understand there's tough decisions that are going to have to be made, even with this, in 10 years. Correct? Because this doesn't cover the hole it's going to, doesn't cover the hole that's going to be made, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So, all I'm saying is we need to start making tough decisions now, not add taxes to the residents, especially in a year where record inflation, you got wage stagnation, you got people that you're asking them to tighten their belt, but I don't see the township budget tightening their belt either.
Okay, I don't know how you interpret that, but
Well, I mean, you're
And
asking,
we've trimmed,
you're asking to take 1% out of the residents.
I understand. Do you pay income tax now, earned income tax?
Depends, because I work all over the city. I work sometimes in the city, sometimes out of the city. Like I worked in Trainer, they had the 1%, but then I worked in Falls.
Yeah,
They
I
didn't
know last year alone, I think it was $12 million, right, that we trimmed out of the budget and put back. Yeah, so we've been trimming fat for a long time.
Okay.
And honestly, we should have probably done this EIT 5 years ago or more. I mean, this isn't a hard decision, it's a big decision. And this has been a long time coming. I mean, we've been putting it off, but to wait until the landfill's full and start taxing people then would be foolish, because this alone wouldn't fill the gap. You're gonna have to seriously increase property taxes at that point. And, that was the plan, is to, shore up our savings now in anticipation of, you can say 10 years or 15 years or 5 years. It's $130 to $140 million is the revenue that it's going to generate. So if we're lucky, we get 12 years out of it or so.
Okay. But what I'm saying is, like you said, it's already not covering it, so this is just a Band-Aid on the problem.
It's not a Band-Aid, it's just to shore up our savings for when the time that, this township has been very comfortable for a long time with never
agree.
raising taxes. I think a lot of people, not necessarily yourself, but there's a lot of people that pay EITs that don't even realize they're paying it. There's a lot of residents that don't even realize that they don't pay for trash removal in Falls Township, which is a big deal. And when that
absolutely.
landfill goes away, when waste management is done here, that's going to be another shock to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But the point of this EIT is this money goes directly into our long-term savings. It doesn't go into the general fund.
Now, is that for the next 10, 12 years, however the landfill is going to be? You can guarantee that it'll go in there every
Can't
year?
guarantee anything, but that's the plan, yeah.
Well, okay, so what happens in 10 years if
I won't
this
be
is
here in
now
10 years.
assimilated?
Yeah, so whoever's here and makes those decisions, we're making the decisions today, and I'll be here for another 4 years, hopefully. Whoever's here makes those decisions, yeah, hopefully is responsible, and, yeah.
All right, like I said, at the end
Mr.
of the
Rukoff,
day,
you might be able to talk a little more on what our plan is, but I mean, as of right now, for 2023, it's restricted long-term savings with the IT funds.
Just to clarify a little bit, we're not going to take the EIT and deposit it into our savings account. We're going to use the EIT to offset the operating expenses of the general fund so that we can transfer less of the host community fees over into the general fund to cover operating costs. Now, we can do that in an amount equal to the EIT so that it makes sense. Obviously, if we're bringing more money into the general fund, we will need less money from the host community fees. Those monies are going to be put into the long-term savings account, which was always the intent for the host community fees. But what we have done with them over time is we have continued to subsidize the general fund so that we wouldn't raise your taxes for the past 30 years. that is not responsible.
I agree. So this is a problem that we should have dealt with years ago, but obviously
So-
that doesn't matter. We're here with the
Dealing
problem now.
Now, that is.
And this isn't something that we, last month or last year decided, let's do an EIT this year. This has been a long time coming.
We did the first study in 2014.
14,
And we
correct.
talked about it long before then.
Right.
The percentage of people that paid EIT at that time was significantly less than
It
what it
was
is
less
now.
then, so we decided not to
Right.
do it. But now even more people pay it.
Yeah,
And it might as well come home.
all right. Thank you, Mr. Rickoff.
You're welcome.
All right, that's all.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
We seen you back there, Mike.
Mike Falkovitz, Falls Township. This is all out of Act 32, correct? The EIT? What part of Act 32 says that Philly city wage tax exempts me from paying a 1% or 0.5% earned income tax here? Because City of Philadelphia has no reciprocal agreements with anybody.
Called the Sterling Act.
All right.
And that's where the city wage tax that's imposed,
Could you start over?
it's called the Sterling Act. It's where the city wage tax that is imposed cannot be by anything anyone does in any of the surrounding municipalities, counties, can't stop Philadelphia from collecting it. But what Mr. Angelides indicated is what is being adopted this evening will not have, there's no taxing you twice.
So it's essentially, I'm exempt from the Falls earned income tax, and all, what I get, the 4.5% I get taken out in the city.
It's crazy.
stays
That's
in the
crazy.
city. Yeah, it is. And on the top of that, why aren't we looking at property tax millage increase? I know everybody hates it, it's a bugaboo, but I was reassessed in '03 when I did my house, and I pay about $500 just to the township. I have no problem paying more in taxes to the township, but all the corporate-owned properties, they don't pay any more on an EIT. So we're subsidizing those properties. And then the KIPC, or North Point, just came out of a 15-year tax abatement. It was passed in what?
It'll be imposed on them, the EIT.
The EIT,
Yeah.
but not the corporate entities that own them properties.
Right.
We have all these dealerships and commercial properties along Route 1 that are adjacent to this building. None of them are gonna pay more in taxes, corporate entities are gonna pay more in taxes than the residents.
The point was to try and not impact, at some point, taxes are going to have to be raised.
I'm
So
not
that at
opposed
some
to
point,
that.
I mean, the point is to not impact seniors immediately, as little as possible. Because we do have a large senior population in Falls.
How much is the value of a mill in Falls Township?
So, Mr. Falkovitz, I just want, because I had the same question, and I met with Mrs. Rukoff, and I think that if she could tell you, you'll understand that an EIT is the single most effective way to generate revenue. Yes.
You're not raising 7.2 million in a property millage rate
No,
increase.
because here's why. Go ahead.
You have to use the microphone.
A
Thank
mill
you.
in Falls Township is worth just over $329,000. So you're right, you can't raise $7 million in millage. So the single most effective way to replace the monies coming from the landfill is through the EIT. That's the largest chunk. It will not impact our seniors, our non-working seniors, nor anyone making under $8,000 a year. So people that have a part-time job, they will not be impacted. Trying to lessen the impact on as many residents as possible. And then you have a large percentage that already pay it elsewhere, so that money will just come back home. Where it will also impact those that live in apartments, which currently they don't pay real estate tax.
No,
Now-
the corporate entity that
but-
owns the complex does.
Well, they will still pay their real estate taxes.
Yeah.
And eventually, real estate taxes will also have to go up. Eventually.
I know.
Many years. But, so that will, but for a first step, trying to lessen the impact on our seniors.
That's the exact reason.
Well, I understand that, and I'm not saying to raise the millage rate, what, 300, what is that, about 50 times, 50 mils?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm
Well,
not,
you
I'm not
can't-
arguing for that.
It would be illegal.
But
You
I
can't do that. It only goes to 14 mils and then we're capped.
I work in Philadelphia, anything is possible as far as taxes. But what I'm saying is, Mr. Palmer brought up the, why a full percent, 0.5%. I personally think that if property taxes are the fair tax wealth, actual wealth. And property taxes are, in my opinion, the fairest tax, because if you don't own property, you don't pay them.
Right.
And property is wealth. We have, you can borrow against it. It's like gold. It's an actual asset. Corporations don't pay earned income taxes. Therefore, that big complex over with Dick's and where Toys R Us and Home Depot were, they ain't gonna pay any more property taxes or any more taxes to this township with an EIT. However, if you raise, even if you take it slow, like you said, there's $130 million, $140 million slated, whether it takes 5 years or 15 years.
Right.
It's all subjective to different variables.
Right.
With that, you can slowly, incrementally increase our millage rate. And is it tough on seniors? It nowhere near as tough as the school tax rate.
Right.
I think if you institute an EIT, whether it's 0.5%, 1/4%, or 1%, and then Lower Makefield, Yardley, and Tullytown do the same, and Pennsbury comes in and swoops in and grabs it, you're gonna see more lunatics like Simon Campbell coming out of Lower Makefield and going after the school board again, and we have to live through that nightmare. So, all that being said, I would rather see you guys incrementally and slowly, what are we at, 7.22 mils? And have been since I was in high school, and I graduated in '94. So I would prefer that than an earned income tax. Like Colin Henderson had said, we've had inflation, and you're adding another 1% on top of that.
I just want to give you a dollar amount on that.
Okay.
If the general fund millage were increased by 1 mil each year for 5 years, the real estate taxes would bring in an additional $1.6 million. That's it.
No.
That's at the end of 5 years, and that would bring our general fund millage rate to 7.63. Our general fund is only currently at 2.63
Oh.
mils.
All right, so the total for the township is,
7.22.
all right. That's what I was
But
quoting.
only 2.63 of it goes to the general fund.
Yes, and then some goes to EHS and,
Yeah.
Different public
The
works.
fire and the rescue
Yeah.
and the street lighting and,
Yeah.
yes,
Fire hydrants.
yes.
So that's my opinion,
Okay.
for whatever it's worth.
Thank you very much.
you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? No? Or is there any other
Right here.
questions? Okay, go ahead, Tony.
If I understand correctly, you're saying that the money from the EIT will not go into its own specific fund. In the interest of transparency, you really need to do that. It really needs to be in its own separate fund, because the idea is we're using it for when waste management clears out. If you start mingling it with the general funds, that money gets lost. It's very difficult to follow the money trail, and it starts getting used for things other than
You're
the
saying it
intent.
backwards. We are not
Yeah.
putting that money in the savings account, okay? That money is supporting the ongoing operating costs of the general fund of the township. It is paying for your fire protection, your police department. It is paying for the utilities that keep the lights on in this building. That is what that earned income tax is paying for. What it is doing, it's reducing the amount we are relying on the host community fees. So for as long as we collect those host community fees, we can save them, which is the intent of the host community fees. We are saving them. We are not saving the earned income tax.
And that was the original intent, but we started using it for everything other than
We
that
started using
intent.
it for all capital, but then we started subsidizing the general fund to pay for operating costs so that we wouldn't have to raise income taxes. That needs to stop.
Well,
If you look at the
respectfully,
budget.
I'm disagreeing on that.
The budget, the next item, none of the money for the EIT is is budgeted for. I know, it's hard to explain, but.
It is. It's in the
I mean, we're
general-
using that money, but that's gonna put more money into the long-term savings. It's-
We matched it,
It's
we
going to
matched it.
take less money from the host community fees. so
Which
that
will go
we
into
can put that
long-term
money
savings.
into the long-term savings.
I realize
That is
what you're
correct.
trying to do with it, but what I'm saying is when you follow the money trail, it's much easier when it goes from point A to point B
But
and
it's not
stays there.
going to go from point A to point B.
I don't
know.
It's covering,
It's not that
it's
simple.
covering operating costs, which are spread out across the entire
But that's
township.
what you wanted to do. What I'm saying is, if we're instituting this tax to prepare us for when waste management goes away, then that's what that money should be used for.
The
And by the way,
savings-
are we using any interest on the savings? Are we getting any interest
Yes,
on the
not
savings?
much.
Yes, we are, and yes,
Can
we're
we
using
put
it.
that into CDs and at least get more? Okay.
We do put it into some.
We're very restricted on what we can do investment-wise.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
some of the CDs are up around 4% right now,
Yeah,
The money is all invested.
and much better than the savings accounts.
right.
But, okay,
It is.
my point.
Thank you. Any, more questions from board members?
No more questions.
Mr. Palmer?
No question.
Ms. Mullen?
No questions.
All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Galloway, can you poll the board?
Aaron Mullen,
Yes.
John Palmer,
I'm a no.
Jeff Dents,
Yes.
Jeff Boraski,
Yes.
and I am yes.
All right, thank you very much. Item number 3, consider adopting the 2023 budget and resolution establishing the millage rate for 2023. Any questions or anything else from Mrs. Rukoff? We had a presentation last meeting.
No questions.
Mr. Palmer?
No question.
Ms. Mullen?
No questions.
Can we just spend another minute and talk about the savings versus the restricted long-term savings and the host community fees? And so I know that that's one thing that, you know, we spoke a lot in depth about in the back was the future of the township, and the EIT should be about the future of the township. So I just want to see where we are with the 7.2 number versus the 5.2 number that we're looking to transfer.
Oh, okay. So, in the interest of budgeting conservatively, I didn't want to estimate that we would receive the full 7.2 million because that could lead to a problem if the school district were to take their half and it would immediately drop
Okay,
the number down to 3.6.
okay,
So, what I did was assumed that they would take their half for half of the year. So I
Oh.
reduced the 7.2 by a quarter
okay,
to allow for them taking their half for one half of the year.
okay,
And that brought it down to 5,250,000.
okay. Understood.
Okay?
Yep, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Any public comment needed on the budget? See no hands. Is there a motion?
So moved.
This is Resolution 2022-38. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Galloway, can you poll the board, please?
Aaron Mullen,
Yes.
John Palmer,
Yes.
Jeff Boraski,
Yes.
Jeff Dents,
Yes.
and I am yes.
Item number 4, consider awarding workers' compensation contract for 2023. This is Mrs. Rukoff again. This is pretty straightforward, right? The total premium for 2023 will be $447,447. Are there any questions or comments from board members? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Boraski?
No questions.
Mr. Palmer?
No question.
Ms. Mullen?
No.
And I have none. Is there any public comment needed? No hands. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Galloway, can you pull the board?
Aaron Mullen,
Yes.
John Palmer.
Yes.
Jeff Boraski.
Yes.
Jeff Dance.
Yes.
I am yes.
Item number 5, we want to ask for a motion to table.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 6, consider ratifying a lease agreement between the Falls Township and the Falls Township Senior Center. This is pretty straightforward. How long will this lease be for?
This will extend the lease to December 31 of 2035.
2035.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any questions or comments from board members?
No.
None.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, I have one question. I've been getting a lot of feedback. The senior center has always been a polling location, and people are complaining that they're going to the, I guess, the golf course next door, and it's not suitable for them, and they haven't been, from what I'm understanding, is the senior center doesn't want the polling location at their center because of COVID and whatnot. So at what point are we gonna, if we're the tenant there, are we gonna get involved and maybe have them back to vote? I don't know if that's a Matt question or a Mike question. As a landlord, do we have control over that?
Over where the polling location will be?
That's correct.
Having it moved from the senior center.
The senior center's telling the the election commission that they don't want it there, so they have to go to the golf course now.
Yeah, I think, John, with the lease agreement with the senior center, we leased them the property, but we've always allowed them to operate the facilities and conduct the business of the senior center without interference from the township. So I don't think there is a provision where we can force them to have a polling location, just like we couldn't force them to do other things. We could obviously have some discussions with them. And
That was my intent,
Yeah,
is maybe
yeah.
we can ask them to accommodate that need, and if we need, to send professional cleaners in afterwards to clean it up, something like that.
Yep.
So,
Mr. Takita and I could reach out and set up a
Appreciate it.
conversation.
thank you.
Any other questions on the lease? Any public comment needed? See no hands. Is there a motion to approve the lease agreement between Falls Township and the Falls Township Senior Center?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Item 7, consider awarding bids for provision of cleaning services for the Falls Township Municipal Building and various parks. CNS Cleaning Company has submitted a qualifying bid for cleaning services for calendar year 2023 in the total amount of $67,000 for the Township Municipal Building, the proposed temporary municipal building, and the parks. Are there any questions from board members?
None.
Mr. Galloway?
Nope.
Mr. Boraski?
No, just note, this is our current contractor right now.
Yeah. Ms. Mullen?
Mr. Takita, we're happy with them?
Yes, we are.
That's it, thank you.
Mr.
No
Palmer?
problem.
All right, I'm just going to note that in the past, we did have a full-time township employee that was, did the cleaning services, and it cost us probably a lot more than the $67,000 did, because they, with their health benefits and everything else, and they didn't even clean the park. So is there any public comment needed? See no hands, is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Galloway, can you pull the board?
Aaron Mullen,
Yes.
John Palmer.
Yes.
Jeff Boraski.
Yes.
Jeff Dance.
Yes.
I am yes.
All right. Consideration of indemnification and hold harmless agreement between Falls Township and Mission Barbecue Oxford Valley, PA LLC. You want to explain this one to us real quick, why we're doing this?
Sure. This is something we deal with from time to time. The applicant wants to get going on building out the space, fitting out the space, but they don't have all their DEP approvals yet for sewage. So what they are asking to do is to proceed by getting their permits and by doing the construction. But what we always do is we enter into a indemnification and a hold harmless agreement, which essentially says if they don't get their permits from DEP, if they don't get their sewage planning, if for whatever reason they're unable to open, that we're not in any way, shape, or form responsible. And they also understand that they can't occupy and start running their business until they get their approvals from DEP. If that takes 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, it's on them, it's not on us. We've done this about 4 or 5 times in the last couple of years because certain parts of the township are on
Held hostage by the DEP?
That's one way to put it.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, so there are certain parts of the township that because of hydraulic overloads in the system have to go through the full planning process.
We did this with the Wawa down the street.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Any questions for board members? This is pretty straightforward.
Nope.
Is there any public comment needed? None? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 9, consideration of manager's recommendation. Oh, I'm sorry. This is off the agenda. 9, 10, and 11 on one. I apologize. I lost item number 9 here somewhere.
These are all off, right?
Yeah,
They're all off.
You have a new one.
I got it.
I have a new one, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we're consideration of professional services agreement between Falls Township and Solutions 180 LLC. What was the old agenda item for that? Because I don't have that in front of me.
Was it number 9?
I may have taken that out and misplaced it, but I'm
None of us have it.
Number 10 originally had to do with the manager's recommendation regarding a company on our towing list.
no, that's not what we're looking for.
Okay.
I think this one was just sent to our email, possibly wasn't in the packet, right?
That's fine, I'm aware of it. This is an agreement that's going to do services within the Falls Township, personnel issues with the police department, correct?
With the police department, that's correct. There are certain matters that the determination has been made that need to be handled by a third party. And in order to assist the manager and to assist the HR director and to assist the chief of police, we're entering into the agreement with this company to do some of these personnel reviews.
All right, any questions or comments from board members? Mr. Galloway?
None.
Mr. Boraski?
No.
Mr. Palmer?
No.
Ms. Mullen?
No.
Is there any public comment needed? See no hands. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item 10, escrow release requests. And we have one on here, $54,000 to Three Rivers Beer LLC, 8919 New Falls Road.
How much?
$54.
Correct,
Sorry.
$54.
This is an easy one. Is there any questions or comments from board members?
Was this a business that did not get approved?
Yeah.
Correct.
We didn't
Yes, that's
approve
correct.
this.
Yeah.
What is the escrow, like, return, is that, for $54?
That's what they're getting back.
I know, but like, they're not moving in, right? They're done?
Correct.
All right.
Ms. Mullen, you good?
Yes, I'm good.
Any public comment needed? None? Okay, is there a motion to give them back their $54?
So moved.
Second.
All
Second.
right. Mr. Galloway, can you hold the board?
Aaron Mullen.
Yes.
John Palmer.
Yes.
Jeff Boraski.
Yes.
Jeff Dents.
Yes.
I am yes.
Item 13, appointments to various boards and commissions. Does anyone have any appointments to make? Usually we do this at our reorg meeting, which will be our next meeting in January.
I have a couple, if we can do them real quick.
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Brian Benny to the Board of Appeals. Brian currently serves on the Board of Appeals. This will be a 3-year term.
All right, the motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None?
And we also have a vacancy. We have a letter from John Haney. I'd like to appoint John Haney to the vacancy spot for, again, a 3-year term on the Board of Appeals.
All right, motion made, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'd
Anyone
like to
else?
make a motion to appoint Aaron Mackey to the zoning hearing board. There was a resignation as of December 13th, and he currently serves as an alternate, has expressed interest
Yes.
in becoming permanent.
I'll second that.
All right, motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
And we don't have to do that by resolution, do we?
We do, we were just discussing that.
So that'd be number
I asked
39?
Mr. Takita, we don't have a resolution prepared for that this evening, but we'll do it by resolution and we'll be able to sign off on it at our reorg meeting.
Thank you. Any others?
Just a question, do we make it again, or that's good for?
I think the intent of the board tonight is to appoint this person to the zoning
Yes.
hearing board. We'll just get the form together for the reorg meeting and you can execute it at that point. in
Thank
time.
you.
Sorry. All right, anything else, that's all?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that takes us to item number 12, the minutes from November 21st. Any corrections, questions on the minutes from board members? I have
None.
none.
No.
Excellent minutes, Mrs. Pullen. This has to be really hard enough when you're in person, but to do it remotely. No questions or comments?
No question.
All right, is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 13, engineer report.
Thank you,
You're up,
Mr.
Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the month of November, we received 3 new earth disturbance submissions and 2 new land development submissions. The new earth disturbances is 699 Bristol Partners LLC, which is paving expansion. The Murphy and Foglia both are residential pools. The land development is improvements to the Falcon Field, Pennsbury School District. And the BJ Group is a building addition onto the Samex building on New Ford Mill Road.
What are they doing down there on that building?
They came into the planning commission with a sketch plan. They want to put a fairly significant building addition in 2 locations. And they intend to do green roofs and some pretty cool.
Is this the
environmental
Samex people that are doing this?
Yes. The Fleischman Group, I believe.
Yeah.
they're called.
Yeah, they've been nothing but a headache since day one.
Now, they're just submitted, so they won't be before the planning commission probably until February.
Okay.
And our review is underway. The updates for the existing projects, the McGill composting facility has started. In fact, I'll be brief and say there's a lot of good news in this report because everything's either approved or under construction at this point. So McGill, after a long wait, we had a pre-construction meeting and they're underway. The Levittown Car Wash, I'm happy to report, is we had a pre-construction meeting and that construction project is underway. The wastewater treatment plant, I think a lot of that work was done, but that's approved and ready to go, as well as the Danja tract. We're in final plan revisions, technical items, but they'll be under construction very soon. I mentioned the 2 new ones that follow in terms of the earth disturbances, the Burger King. Most of the exterior improvements are done. They're doing interior renovations. The Atlantic Precast, that's the big trailer storage area down off of Old 13 by Mill Creek. That's mostly complete, waiting for wearing course, which is gonna be weather permitting. The JR 915 LLC is the Truck Smart on Old Lincoln Highway, and that's just a minor paving addition. That's under construction. The North Point and Fleck, they're both projects that are down within the KTC. For North Point, they're kind of odd earth disturbances because they're for utility conduits, and one for an adjustment to a driveway. So they've both been approved. Britton Industries, that's been approved, and a pre-construction meeting occurred, so that will go under construction. As you'll recall, that's the damaged buildings from the fire. They're going to replace them. And as I said, there's a review letter issued for the Bristol Partners project, and the 2 residential pools have been reviewed and approved. In terms of the township projects, the only update I will offer is the township building renovations. As you know, we're doing the site work for that, and we are 80% document submission tomorrow.
That's it?
That's it.
Any questions for Mr. Jones from board members?
No questions.
No.
Mr. Palmer?
I have one.
I have one, yeah.
Go ahead.
Mr. Jones, anything about the bowling alley? Are you hearing anything being proposed yet for that?
I have not.
That's all I have.
Mr.
Joe, one
Borowski.
question. Number 43, it's Podrowski Residence, 6 Taylor Drive.
Yes.
I drive by that every day. The work seems to be done. I know the resident had trouble getting sod. There's seed was planted and there was these blankets put on it. Township not finalizing it without actually seeing grass grow?
We typically will not issue the final CO until, or the recommendation for the final CO until it's fully stabilized, and that is kind of our partner with Mr. Krassel at the Conservation District. They can use it, operate under it, we're just waiting for the right weather for a grass stand.
I didn't, yeah, that was, I was never aware of that. I just, we can
It's
discuss
typical.
further. I just think it's, it's tough on a resident, I mean, the place looks beautiful, what they did there, and,
Of course.
I mean, to not see we don't even know if the seed will germinate or not, if they'll get grass, so.
Of course, but we would not object to any kind of escrow money releases or them operating and using the pool beneficially. It's literally just a matter, we'll come back out for another 15 minutes when the grass is ready, thumbs up, and issue the final.
So we're holding escrow over grass growing?
No.
We're not?
Not-
No,
not
we're
as-
gonna release the escrow back?
Yes.
Okay,
You just have to ask for it, right?
Yes.
okay.
Now, if it was a big land development, as we have a few where they can't get germination, of course,
That's
we
different.
wouldn't do that.
Yeah. All right, anything else from Mr. Jones? All right, thank you, Mr. Jones. That takes us to the bill list. We have a bill list in the amount of $2,837,553.22. Over 1.2 of that is payroll. There's the highlights. And we've been reimbursable funds from escrows is about 215,000, 287,000 payment to general asphalt. They're the highlights. Any questions, payments to the volunteer firefighters within Falls Township? Workers' comp insurance? Any questions or comments for board members?
None.
None?
None.
Is there a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Galloway, can you pull the board?
Aaron Mullen,
Yes.
John Palmer,
Yes.
Jeff Boraski,
Yes.
Jeff Dents.
Yes?
I am yes.
All right. Manager comment. Mr. Takita, that's you.
I just have one item. Christmas trees, the 2023 Falls Township Christmas tree pickup. Christmas trees will be picked up for composting on Saturday, January 14th, 2023, and Saturday, January 28th, 2023 by Waste Management. Please do not put trees out for pickup prior to January 14th, before the January 14th tree composting collection date. After the 28th pickup, trees can be put out with the regular trash. Christmas trees over 6 feet or anything excessively large must be cut in half. And please remove plastic bags and all decorations from the tree.
Or just buy artificial, like I do.
Or you can do that.
No? How much are Christmas trees now? Over $100?
85. Those are that big.
You have a real one?
Yeah. And they're getting shorter each year.
Okay. Thank you for that. That takes us to board comment.
Mr. Deds, if I could just jump in, we did have an executive session
Oh, I'm sorry.
on December
I skipped
5th
you.
To discuss personnel matters.
All right, thank you for that. Board comment, Mr. Palmer.
Yeah, I have a couple things. I wanted to talk about the EIT, why I voted no. I don't think for not raising millage for 20-some years, we went about it right. We should have put a lot more energy into maybe a steering committee, get the public involved, more transparency, just so people understand that this money's coming from the host fees and it's paying for pretty much everything here, and we're putting it back into the operating budget. That's what we want to do. So I'm not in favor, as it was written, 1%. I don't think it was necessary for 1%. School district isn't taking half. It probably won't in a while. So that's basically the reason. I think we should have been involved with the public on this and worked our way through it. It was coming, no doubt about it. It just we could have done it differently. So that's all I have. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, everybody.
Ms. Mullen?
Yes, same. I just wanted to speak also on the EIT, and I agree with one thing John said. which is about the education, and I think that that's going to be something that the supervisors in the township need to work together to kind of get out some good information over the next few months. I also agree with John when he didn't say that we didn't need it. And you might remember that last month I was opposed to the advertisement. And since then, I met with our finance director, our township manager. I brought to them some community concerns that were given. I reviewed the e-consultant report at length, made notes, discussed with Ms. Rukoff and Mr. Takita my concerns. And, you know, on top of that, I want to say some very well-meaning people told me that politically it would be in my best interest to vote no on the EIT. And if it had worked out that way and the EIT was bad, then that would have been great. But after getting all the information and looking at where we were at, we can't do that. You can't stop governing in an election year. And the things that convinced me were that our general fund is not self-supporting. It's not sustainable as is. We've created a situation where we have a permanent dependence on a temporary income source, and the sand is running through the hourglass. So I don't think it's a knock on past supervisors. I do think that there's an argument that maybe some things should have been done in years past, but I honestly believe that we waited as long as we could, and now we can't, and that's why it's not at 0.5%. That is why it's at a 1%. And I do want to speak to those who happen to be in the minority of people who don't pay any earned income tax, and that I understand inflation is bad. And that's especially why we did want to protect seniors who inflation hits hardest. Unfortunately, we can't predict when the best time is going to be to raise taxes. Another thing that convinced me too was, and that we didn't get to say tonight, is that an EIT also grows with income as people get raises, whereas property taxes don't grow that way. Another thing too was the out-of-state. So that study that we did, and Ms. Rukoff, correct me if I'm wrong, dealt with Pennsylvania data. So the out-of-state revenue, am I right so far? The out-of-state revenue could not be included in that estimate. So anything that we get from out-of-state people who work residents who work out of state is going to be on top of even our highest estimate. So that's another thing. And then just the fact that $3.5 million is walking out the door every year, and we want that back. And in addition to people who we heard from in opposition to the EIT, we heard from quite a few people who would rather their money be back home at Falls Township. So, you know, I think now there are the Bucks County municipalities, after tonight, I think it stands at 3 or 4 who haven't enacted an EIT. So we're just joining the rest of the county. But I have heard your concerns, and from what I learned in that finance meeting is that, you know, we do have to work together and prepare for leaner years ahead, like most other townships do. And I think I have faith in us that we can do it. This EIT will give us security going in. But yeah, we've got some tough decisions ahead, and I've only heard willingness though from our entire staff and from everybody up here that we're ready to do that. So thank you very much, and happy holidays to everyone.
Mr. Galloway?
Yeah, I just think of a fellow named Guido who used to come to our meetings all the time. Guido, we got your message. You're looking down on us. We understand it's good for seniors. And I'm proud of the work we did. I'm sure he's very proud of us here tonight. Other than that, I want to wish everyone a happy Hanukkah and a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Mr. Borasky?
Thanks. I just want to echo Aaron a little bit. Mr. Rukoff, thank you for all the hard work. I know just from me alone, it was Sunday emails and phone calls, and it's off hours for us, so it's late at night, and we kind of want answers like, you know, when we're looking for them. So I appreciate all the hard work, and And happy holidays for everyone.
Thank you. Like I said, during the discussion, this isn't a decision we made this year or last year. This has been a long time coming. It wasn't necessarily a hard decision. It was a big decision. I know it's not a popular decision because, like I said, people are very comfortable in Falls Township with not having taxes go up. But I think one of the biggest things, Mr. Falkovich spoke on raising property taxes, but the biggest thing is, like Ms. Rukoff said, if we raised $1 million a year for 5 years, we wouldn't even have $2 million. So we'd have to be raising taxes for a long time. Mr. Galloway mentioned our friend Guido Mariani, and we know he's looking down on us because he always looked down on us. But I'm going to read the very last email. Rest in peace, Guido. This is from December 21st, 2021. Mr. Dents. Of course you dummies will pass the 2021 budget without my suggestion for an EIT and building renovation. So he's getting both. But you must know I'll be back at you for the 2022 budget. Most important now is peace on earth to men of goodwill. I wish God's blessing on you, our Board of Supervisors, and our professionals. Have a blessed Christmas and a Merry Christmas. Please take care of yourself and be careful, Guido. So after he called us dummies, he wished us well. But we love you, Guido. And like I said, it wasn't a hard decision. It was a big one. I know it wasn't popular, but thank you for everyone and all their hard work. And I wish everyone a happy holidays, no matter whatever holiday you're spending. And with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.